Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. It's me, your host, Maria, and with me today is my white balance setting off co-host, Katie.
Oh, shit, is it still
happening? It's doing it. As I looked up, I saw it, and I was like, I'm gonna hit that.
I just can't move at all.
Yeah,
I have to stay absolutely still.
Katie's camera hates her face.
Before we get into Shisheshin, which is our protagonist name, which is the coolest name ever. And it fits it because we have this, if you don't know what S sounds are in the English language when it comes to linguistics, it's called susurrus. So the susurrus sounds of Shisheshin is such a great thing because, like, she's not a snake, but, like, it makes sense for it to mimic the sound of a snake, and we'll talk about why. But the point is you should start the book so I don't have to cut more. Shut up, William!
Get out of here,
getting
Will.
there. We're having our intro.
Get out. Nobody wants you. So, the book we're reading today is, since Katie can't remember it, or can't remember what she was going to say, the book we're reading today is called Someone You Can Build a Nest In?
Correct. It's by a male author, or at least a male, it's by a male author, I think. Chris something?
So I have no idea. John Wiswell.
Wiswell, I was off.
Yes, John Wiswell. And it is, I knew nothing about this book going into it, like, at all.
Yep, me too.
And it is one of those where you start it and you're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? And then I stopped, like, I think a chapter, and I stopped, and then I read the book summary, like, not the summary, the little fly
I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
I didn't even do that. I just went full hog into the book, and I was like, so the chapter, first of all, before we, we'll get into the plot summary and stuff, and you'll get this part, but the first chapter just throws you the fuck in.
Yeah.
And you are just like, whoa! So our protagonist is weird.
Yeah.
And it is not normal.
I need to preface what I thought this book, based on the name of it. I thought it was going to be, because, like, Will had told me that, you know, he was looking at a couple of, like, you know, books that weren't in our normal wheelhouse, like him, he was thinking about doing, like, some nonfiction, some stuff like that, and I thought this was going to be either a non-fantasy fiction or a nonfiction about codependent relationships and finding someone that wasn't trauma. No, that's the problem. Because you said, did you start reading the book that we're doing? And I said, what book? And you said, someone you should build you could build a nest in. And you were like, and the way you said it, I was like, oh, is
what
this
did
gonna?
I say?
You just said, like, I'm almost done with it, and it just, the way you said it made me think this was going to be a serious book about, like, trauma or trauma bonding.
I mean,
or,
it is
codependence, but, like, I thought it was going to be, because, like, I was like, I wonder if Will picked this because of, you know, like, and I was like,
so me too. Also,
when I started this book, so again, I'm thinking, I'm expecting, like, serious, realistic.
No! So, guys.
And then I start the book and the main character's a monster waking out of hibernation who's a slime girl, and I was
that's me!
Really thrown off. So I had to pause and read the flyleaf to be like, did I invent what I thought this book was going to be about? And the answer was yes.
That's very funny. It's because, you know what's funny? The only insight I had into this book was the front cover.
Yes.
I would like to show that, actually, real quick. Let me just Google it real quick. You can basically see the gist of it. I was really hoping just to get a big picture, but everything's freaking out on me. But you can get the gist of it.
It's a tentacled, like, black tent of a woman, almost like a cloak with hair. Yeah, and she's got a face and a hat on, and then there's a girl underneath her with more tentacles coming around the girl, who looks, like, scared.
As soon as I saw that front cover and I heard someone you can build a nest in, my instant thought was actually a webcomic I had read ages ago. I don't even know the name of it. I don't even remember the plot, but I just remember the visuals. And I was thinking, oh, so we're going to get, like, a witch girl who, like, has, like, morphing abilities or something, and there's chains. And so I was like, and it's got to be a girl and girl thing because we have two ladies, and it's someone you can build a nest in. So my assumption is it's someone you can find a home in. So I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get like lesbian amorphous love, and it is actually
Yeah.
that. So I felt very prepared just by the front cover.
Versus me, because I didn't look at the front cover when I started reading. I just kind of jumped in. And this was more Dragon Slayer 19 says, very informative nonfiction psychologically book on relationships, someone you can build a nest in. And that's what I thought this was going to be. So the premise of this book is not, as I said, not what Maria thought it was.
It is exactly what Katie thought it was.
Yes, it is a love story about an amorphous, monstrous blob creature named Shisheshin, who hibernates and comes out of her lair, and she can shapeshift into different things by bringing things into her body. Like she can build a skeleton from that she can then hold her shape around, and so she can take different shapes and stuff like that. And she's a hunter. She has a lair. She hunts. She does shit. And then
also, technically, it says she's a hunter, but really, even though it says she's a hunter, she's also just a defensive mechanism. Yeah. Like if you bother her, she's gonna bother you. But otherwise, honestly, she probably won't bother you that much. And also, Science Fantastic had it. It's if the thing was best girl.
And she, her life has been very simple so far. She has lived, she's eaten people, she has her lair, she hibernates, everything is good. And then some monster hunters come to kill her. Shit goes sideways, and she ends up in the warm, loving hands
of
a human lady.
In the warming bosom. And also homemade quilt.
Of a human woman who mistakes her for an injured human, nurses her to health, and they fall in love. And hijinks and shenanigans ensue as this monster learns to love, but also wants to eat her mother-in-law. That's...
Which is what a great... Like, I definitely thought, and when we get to the point when Maria synopsis it, there's a point very early in the novel where I thought, okay, where are you going to go from here? Like, it kind of seems like you're stuck in a mold, and it kind of feels like it's going to be expected. Like, I know what's going to happen, and it's going to be very boring, and, like, where can you explore from there? And, man, what's his name again? Sam? I don't remember. John. I just can't. Chris, Sam, John. Some male name.
You're really insulting a lot of white guys right now.
Anyway, man, was I pleasantly surprised. I would not call it perfect. I would not call it good. I would call it just barely good enough for it to have been successful.
It is enjoyable in a very specific candy way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of compare it a little bit in one way to a different book we read called Legends and Lattes.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
But this is, I think, better than Legends and Lattes. It suffers. A lot of my complaints are going to be similar ones that I levied at Legends and Lattes. But this has more tension. One of my big problems with Legends and Lattes was it was tension. There was no tension. It was just like a bubble. And I was like, can I have some rough patches, please? Anything. And so this book has a bit more tension. It suffers in a couple of ways that book did. It is more successful, and I'm very excited to talk about those reasons. But the book skips something. This is the Disney version of this romance.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have what should be a delicious, slow burn of two people who don't know each other, that come from very different backgrounds, getting to know each other and falling for each other. And it happens overnight. The book's just like, and then they were in love. And that's it. And the thing is, you have to, as a reader, just accept that you're not going to get that thing, and that the book isn't interested in that. It is more interested in these two people being in a relationship, comforting each other, and the, oh no, there's a secret between them, what are they going to do? Than it is about showing two people who are very different falling in love, or how they would fall in love with each other. And for me, you guys know I'm a slow burn bitch.
You know what I was
I
gonna
love
say? My biggest issue with this was the fact that, kind of like what you said, like there's tension in it, but there's also a lack of like groundedness. When you said a Disney version, that was a perfect spot on
so there's
characterization.
100%. There's a couple of things that lack groundedness off the back. Number one, anything outside of Shisheshin, Homily, and her family is basically a tarp, like with paint on it. Because when I tell you the setting and the world of this story, even the town of Outlook or
It's
Underlook,
just, it's not really depthful enough where you're like, oh, this is real.
yeah,
It's
it
a
doesn't.
caricature.
Yeah, the characters, I would say, especially Shisheshin, you really can like attach yourself to her as a
Yeah.
viewpoint, and the kind of some of the dynamics that immediately surround Shisheshin have some depth to them. But then everything, like the world itself, I think one of our patrons, and I can't remember who it was. If you're here, throw yourself in the comments. They said basically that anything about the world building, the town felt like you could just swap it out with any generic
Correct.
medieval Fantasylandia
Correct.
town. So that's one of the places where I felt like it lacked some depth for me. The actual development of their romance lacked depth for me. Also, Shisheshin has a really good understanding of human psyche that I wish took longer for her to learn about. Like, the girl's like, trauma was a thing that humans dealt with. And, some humans
Yes.
would say she was a
Okay.
trauma. And I'm like,
Maria, hit the
what are
nail
you
on the
doing?
head. It's again, it's like, okay, this is where Maria says it's like Legends and Lattes. Um, there's a certain amount of control that our protagonist has that you're just like, oh, nothing really bad's gonna ever happen because my protagonist can't make mistakes. And that's basically what happens. I mean, she makes mistakes plot wise where it puts her in a vulnerable position. And there are a few mistakes where it's like, wow, I wouldn't have necessarily done that, but that makes sense for your position. But then there are so many other choices and also internal thoughts where it's like, oh, so you're a therapist then.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of like, I like hearing that. I like knowing that. And I could have bought it if you had just presented a slightly different secession. Like if secession had actually been like, I don't know, let's just pretend she was like 300 years old. Let's say she actually did have a lot of interaction with humans. Let's say every time that she morphed into a human or used their body parts, she acquired a certain level of their memories and their knowledge. And which it never says. That
It
is not a thing. She just
specifically
uses,
says she does not.
yes. So she only acquires their physical bits, so that way she can use them how she pleases. And I don't mean that sexually. I mean that like she uses a jawbone to make her own jaw, because otherwise she's an amorphous blob, which is really cool. But if she
We love that.
had, yes, I love that. But if she had actually stolen, as Science Fantastic said, an understanding from like a monster hunter or a woman that came through that was older, like let's say she couldn't help but eat an old woman one day. Like if we wanted to make her empathetic and she wasn't just straight monster, like yeah, she could just kill an old woman. That I also would have forgiven that, honestly. But like if she also killed an old woman because the old woman was like, I'm at the end of my days, let my knowledge live on, and then Secession ate her, then, or him, it doesn't matter. The point is if there was a certain level of an accumulation of knowledge, then that perhaps could make sense. And it also reads as like a high functioning, super smart person. Like, because sometimes super smart people, whether you're talking people that are on a spectrum or whether you're talking like just in general, they're just very smart. Sometimes they have a lack of distinction in emotional responses and stuff, portrayed in media. I don't mean in reality. But portrayed in media where, like, for example, on Criminal Minds, you have like the autistic one character, I forget his name, but he's like, oh, I'm really smart and I know everything, and so I can pick apart everybody. That's an unrealistic portrayal, but at the very least, like, if there's an education behind it, I can at the very least bite a hook and be like, oh, all right, I guess I'll get pulled up by that hook.
So Dragon Slayer made a great point, exactly what you're saying. If she could
Oh,
read and
really?
had access to a couple of books she had stolen from
Oh,
caravans she had previously raided, it could explain some very specific niche knowledge. And so like that's one of those things where it, and Angry Otter, who I must say enjoys this book, and first when we started talking about all of this went, shh, we don't need to think about that.
Yeah,
Just think about the tentacles and the bear trap.
exactly.
Also said, oh, she's a mouthpiece for the author 100%. But tentacles. It's really interesting because what I felt like this author really wanted was a comforting romance
Yeah.
that was about two people becoming and finding safety in each other, and within the word,
I mean, the title.
Yes, the word count of this book. This is one of the only times where we read a book and I was like, I wish this was 4 hours longer. I wish there was a portion of these two characters, because obviously their folly and lurve happens. It happens very quickly, and what would work better is if they got to know each other more. She learned about humanity as she learned more about Homily, the woman she falls in love with, and then was able to put together towards the end of the book some of the things that she just kind of knows at the start. Yeah. And like have really like at multiple points it would be great to see her go, why is she reacting that way? Why is she doing that? Why doesn't she just smack the other person? And then realizing, oh, this is what happened. And then kind of coming to the,
yes,
she's been carved this way because of everything around her. And she just has that knowledge and she comes to it a little bit quickly. But yeah, overall it's there's parts of this that are just really fun and really cute and really adorable.
So honestly, somebody said this was his debut book. What a successful debut book in comparison to so many other debut books. Like, it's got issues. I don't care though, because it was so successful. It was I remember what I was going to say earlier. You know what's funny is that the structure and the style of Legends of Lattes, I can't say I prefer it specifically because guys, if you read Legends of Lattes, it has more of a if I were going to compare it to fantasy characters, it has a dwarven structure, where it's very like just like it's very like matter of fact. It's like it's got really good exposition, but it like feels whole. And then this book is more like a poem, like elven poetry, and because it has to do a lot more with feelings. And so and very very difficult feelings to process. And so it's interesting. The styles of the narration are completely different, is what I really wanted to say. But the fact of the matter is that there's a simplification of our process that does take away from the more sophisticated nature that it could have otherwise inhabited.
One of the reasons why I think this book is more successful than Legends and Lattes is it actually has an actual plot that has teeth to it, with danger and stakes and risks that do feel, like they have teeth, if you will. Like they got a necklace of silver fangs. That'll come up later. Don't worry about it. And versus Legends and Lattes, which at every point I was like,
yeah, it's just like I know what's gonna happen. There's like it's like falling on a very overly cushioned bed every single night, and after a while you're like, I wouldn't mind a bit of a firm bed.
Yeah, or just like some excitement. Here, for me, where it feels more like Legends and Lattes is within the romance itself. At no point are you like, wow, this romance could end badly. The whole time you're like, oh yeah, the author loves these two. And like conceptually, the characters absolutely would ship it. But it's one of, Will makes the point a lot where you, as an author, you have to mirror where the audience is in the love for your characters and for your ship, where you need to let the audience get there kind of on their own. And sometimes as authors, people they love their ship so much. They love these two characters. They're so perfect together. And in a lot of ways, I really like these two characters together, that it just happens. And the author is sold on it and thus just gives it to you and doesn't give you the chance to kind of fall in love with them as a couple. And so because of that, the author loves these two together. That they're going to end up happy together and that this is it. And so that's where it feels like Legends and Lattes, where at no point are you like, wow, this could actually go badly for her. There's literally a point, and I'm just going to throw this tidbit out there. There's literally a point where our main character is eating her love interest's younger sister, and the love interest is like, yeah, I guess this is fine. And the thing is, I actually quite enjoy that sequence, and we'll talk about that when it happens. But the entire time, Yeah, the
Yeah.
entire time you know that it's just this is going to be a successful romance. They're going to be happy together. It's not even like a one of those like The Notebook. And I bring that up. I don't love that movie, but there
I
are
hate
genuine
that
points in
movie.
The Notebook where you're like, wow, these two, this could end badly.
Yes.
And there is some tension about it. Like even though you know they're going to end up together, the narrative is throwing enough tension within their romance to make it you feel that tension, you feel the risk and the hurt and all of that. And here the author's like, don't worry guys,
You know what I think it is? I
eat
think
a Hershey's Kiss, we're good, we
I
got
think
you.
Science Fantastic hit it on the head. This book is horror comedy romance.
Yes.
I think what really fits the mold of what you just explained and what we've been discussing basically for the next past 30 minutes is that it's comedy. And the thing is sometimes comedy fits a mold where there's a certain expectation and there's a welcome, like what's the word I'm looking for? What's the term again? I'm blanking out. The the punchline.
Okay.
The punchline of the joke is that it'll be okay. And so, you know, there's that.
Let's start the plot of the book because it's a wild one if you haven't gotten it. And one thing I want to say that has been mentioned in the comments several times is you might be sitting here if you haven't read this book, you might be going,
Oh,
tentacles,
okay. You're so nice.
lesbians, written by a man. Maria, Katie, what horrors lay within? And none. The author is asexual, and this book is an asexual romance. It is about uh, a romance devoid of the
Physicality.
the messy physicality of sexual attraction, and it's sweet and it's adorable and it's wholesome and it's good. It's quite lovely. Someone earlier made a beautiful comment that
What
I'm
was
going
it?
to
Which
highlight.
one?
I have to find it.
Yeah, there are ace vibes all the way. And it is nice, although I would have preferred, again, if it were 4 hours longer, I would have preferred 20 minutes dedicated to some fumbling a little bit more so on the actual like process of them exploring that and understanding that. But
Yeah, Dragon Slayer said, "Man writes enjoyable sapphic monster girlfriend
Oh, yeah.
book." Katie, I will not remember your name. That was one of the parts I loved the most because again, I immediately I was like tentacle girl and monster, and then I was like, man wrote this. I was like, what horrors lay here? And there wasn't, and it's just sweet. As far as like if you want a sweet romance that has horror comedy to it and weirdness, like this'll scratch a lot of issues, especially if you want something with zero romantic tension, because like sometimes people, you're just in that mood, you don't
there
want.
is some romantic tension in some places where I thought, like, I knew it wasn't going to end up that way based off the length of the novel, but I was like, oh, is
Homily.
I always want to call her Halloumi.
That is a cheese.
Homily. There were a few parts where I was actually hoping for it and I was disappointed. I also, I was gonna mention that earlier, but throughout the whole thing I was like, halloumi.
Please
so
note, that is one of my favorite kinds of cheeses.
I know.
From the island that I'm from, but oh my god.
There were multiple times where I was actually expecting Homily to break from secession and be more like, oh wow, you are what my family hunts. And I wanted and there is a slight miscommunication on like, you know, what's going on, but I would have just preferred more discussed for a while and for Homily to at one point, because what we learn, and again Maria will go into this once we start in like 5 seconds on the synopsis, what you'll find out is Homily is actually quite familiar with beasts and creatures. And so I would have like really liked for her to have to confront the fact that she was in love with one of those creatures and that she would be like, ew, that's disgusting. Because she would have been influenced by her family. And so I would have liked to have seen that influence and the battle she would have had because she would have been more human to me.
I agree. And that's what I mean when I say there wasn't romantic tension, because that never happened, and I never really thought that was going to happen. And so for me, that's because I agree. I wish there had been a moment, and maybe not necessarily of disgust, but of like betrayal about being lied to. Like, you couldn't have trusted me. Like just any of that, just a skosh of, and it's because, and I've talked about it before, where I hate when books just kind of fall into the miscommunication trope of like, oh, there's a secret, but like this needed it because there was, because we didn't have them falling in love and the will they won't they just did. You needed a little of that like tension for it. But anyway, let's get into it, shall we, party people? So this book starts with
I'm celebrating my birthday today, but anyway, that's fine.
She is, and I'm going to her party. So our girl Shisheshin wakes up from hibernation. She's a slime girl. She's in the bottom of a like hot spring that appeared in this like old manor house that she uses as her lair. Every year she hibernates. While she hibernates, she thinks about her dear papa, whom she burst out of as a young from her egg as a young monster creature with her and her siblings, and they ate of his flesh, and he gave himself to her and her siblings, but then her siblings tried to eat her, so she had to eat them. You know how it happens, like,
of course, like the norm.
It's it is what it is.
Not unlike a human. But the point is one thing I just want to mention is it's immediately apparent that Secession has a certain level of reverence and a certain level of passion towards her father that is honestly unwarranted because she doesn't know, but it seems almost like it's imprinted upon her, which I thought was interesting, and I also thought was strange later on. I think there's a miscommunication. If I can tell you this right now, Maria, so that way we can bring it up later when we get revealed more information. I thought, so Secession remembers her father as being a comforting nest. Where she, you know, that like Maria said, she ate of their organs, of his organs. They all did. He was the ultimate sacrifice, but she inherently understood that as a baby. Like, she was like, this is my father. He gave this to me. This was his to give to me. It is love. This is what love is. And so I think that's fascinating because, like, I would like to discuss that later. But yeah, continue.
There's literally her father's ribs, rich in marrow, cracking delicately in their mouths and finding the first feast of their lives. His fat deposits were generous, and his entrails sheltered them from the cool winter elements. If Shisheshin could have spent her entire life inside the nest of his remains, she would have. And there is, Katie's right, where there is very much this reverence of, like, him sacrificing himself, him choosing to be this nest to foster the offspring. It comes up multiple times throughout the book. But yeah, she out here, she slime girl, she ate her siblings, she survived, and
they tried to eat her first.
Yeah, they did. They tried to eat her first. One of them bit her, what would have been her ankle if she had an ankle, or heel. I don't know. One of those. And she ate them, and then she's just kind of lived in this lair. She kind of made it her own. When people stumble in, she eats them. She'll go out and hunt. She has a pet bear named Blueberry, who's a blue bear. And her and Blueberry, very affectionate. She does not eat Blueberry. Sometimes Blueberry will go hunting with her. And it's just like, she's just living her best monster girl life.
Yeah, honestly.
And she wakes up from hibernation, though, from her nice dreams of being in the nest of her papa. And she's not supposed to be awake. It's too early. She's still supposed to be in hibernation, but people are in her lair, and she realizes they're monster hunters. She hears them talking, so she has to start, like, assembling herself to try to figure out what's happening. But her weak. She's a weak-ass monster outside of hibernation. She's hungry. She hasn't eaten in a while. She has
several months.
Yeah. She has no real form, and to give herself a body with which to do some mischief, she has to form herself. So she, like, uses a chain to make a spine, and she starts trying to cobble together enough, but she's super weak. She needs to eat. The guys come in. Two of them are hardened monster hunters. One is an older guy named Rourke, and then there's a younger guy named Malik. But then
it definitely gives very much so The Witcher. It gives The Witcher vibes. No, it does.
Yeah.
The monster hunters, they have gas masks or something, which is different from everybody else. Nobody else has these breathing machines. And so they have breathing machines to try to like keep out the, I guess, noxious fumes of like things. And they know, and they're like, they have a third party that's with them that is their benefactor. And he's like,
An asshole.
yeah, no. I want everyone to picture a Fabio. And I want everybody to, and if you don't know what that means culturally, I want you to picture a very, a very like, oh, yes, kind of dude. Am I wrong?
That's not the, you just made the noise of a fop. Fabio is a bodice ripper.
Yeah, like think both, but like a less successful Fabio. Think the third brother to Fabio. And and he has like later on, you know, he has like just like gold, not even gold plated, I don't think. I
He
think
has
it's just
gold armor
that has abs on it.
and nipples.
So like yeah, and nipples. And so he's just like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you two. We paid you so much money, but you're saying this is too dangerous and that you don't know what this creature is? We need to go in. It's definitely the serpent that we're looking for. The worm, excuse me.
He's a dick. He's got rich entitled guy all over him, from his gold armor to the fact that they told him not to come in because there was noxious smells and he would
and he's just like,
and he does anyway. And as he comes in and he throws up, Shasheshin's like, I hope it was in his helmet. So he painted all over inside of it, you know?
Because he sounds like a dick.
And she's like, okay, I've got at least 2 real monster hunters and an asshole in my lair. I gotta deal with them. So she shapes herself into a human. She puts on this red cloak. She has to hide enough of her body that she really only has to make her face kind of human. And she's like cobbled together some bones to kind of give herself facial structure. And she is like, oh, the monster's sleeping. The monster stole me. I've been here for so long. It likes when I sing to it, and you must help me get away. You need to go to an island somewhere and get this specific herb, and that's its weakness.
So honestly, like mint, I think is what it was. Because we will learn very, very quickly that Secession is very weak to rosemary oil. Anything rosemary is actually something that is like a detriment to her. Yeah. Massive detriment. And so she hears them arguing whether or not like the rosemary oil will work. And she's like, oh no, like Maria said, except for she's better at it than I am. Mint! So anyway, it really instantly characterizes her because despite all her big talk, she's also just trying to get them to go away and be smart about it because she knows 3 versus 1, regardless of her power and everything, she doesn't want to put herself in a bad position. And she also doesn't want to attract attention to herself. She wants to secretly just like snatch a thing every now and again and just chill. So, to have that much attention on her, she's like, why are they here? I haven't done anything. What is wrong? And meanwhile, third cousin to Fabio is just like, yes, this worm set a curse on my family. I've been sent by my mother.
We need to get its heart and blood. And
because that's what like, mother wants.
Shasheshin's like, I don't have a heart. They're gonna be real fucking disappointed, guys.
Yeah, she's like, they must be looking for a different creature. Not me, because I don't actually have a heart. I'm not a worm.
Or they think I have a heart. And you later learn that worm is just a term they use for monsters creatures of different ilks. But yeah, so she's trying to get them to go away so that they'll fuck off for a couple of months. They'll come back when they have the thing they think will kill her, and then she'll be strong enough to actually face them and take them down. It does not work because the one guy, Fabio's third brother, also known as Catharsis Wolfire, and the Wolfires are the home. The Wolfires are the family who actually lived in her lair. Like, it was their ancestral seat of power. Yeah. And so he's like, well, yeah, we must get rid of the monster. Mother will be coming, blah, blah, blah. And when they're like, the 2 monster hunters are like, oh, the little girl who has lived with the monster says this is her weakness. Let's go get it. That's how we kill it. And Catharsis is like, no, I didn't hire you. You don't call a locksmith to find the missing key. You hire the locksmith
That's a really good metaphor. Does he say that?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, that's a really good.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was Catharsis Wolfire. The worst. He's terrible. But anyway, and he makes the argument, and they're trying to do stuff, and then eventually, like, shit goes to hell. She goes to, I don't remember if they attack her or she attacks them, but something happens. Stuff happens. She eats Catharsis. The guys run off. They realize that the girl was the monster, and she's like, oh shit, I gotta skedaddle before they come back. And she's like, okay. She finds Blueberry, and she's like, Blueberry, I need some food. Let's go hunting. Blueberry fucks off. She's like, okay, let me go into Underlook, just see if I can eat someone, because she's been stuck with a crossbow bolt that had these barbs of rosemary oil on it. So she's also dying, but she ate Catharsis. And by eating Catharsis, it buoys her up enough that she's able to have enough strength to go into town and kind of escape it. And she's using Catharsis' skull to kind of shape her face. So she goes into town. She's trying to find some idiot, but like, nobody is just like out and about. And then she realizes they're all in this hall and they're celebrating and dancing and laughing and drinking. And she's like, what's happening? And she realizes they're celebrating her death. Those guys, those monster hunters went in to kill the worm, and everybody's like, yeah, we don't have to worry about the worm anymore. And she's like, oh wow, this is weird to be at a party for my death, but I'm still alive. Like, what a world. And then she meets this guy named Laurent. And Laurent is this posh...
a dandy. I am picturing... that's what his vibe is. So any character any of you have ever seen in a video game, an anime, a comic book, a cartoon, anything, where they have like a wavy hair that covers one eye, because it literally describes him this way. He has wavy, beautiful hair, like foppish hair, and it covers one eye, and he's like, really sexy, and he's like, such a man, and he's there, and he's like hitting on Secession, and Secession's like, oh my god, meat.
Yes. and he's also like a rich merchant guy, and
yes, and he has a lot of power in the town. He actually is like the linchpin towards all the trading things in the area. And he's kind of hitting on her and is kind of into her, which I thought was always weird because she has her like hood over her and she's like trying to hide. So I don't know why he's attracted to her. I think it's the mysterious nature, as later on we get a lot of more of that. Like his understanding what he's into, because he has a kink. And which I thought was such a great addition to the novel.
It's excellent.
And so she's actively trying to distract him away from the bonfire into a dark, mysterious corner where she can eat him. However, Maria.
Yes. And as she's sitting there trying to like coax him, because he's like, I have a really great room if you want someplace a little quiet. She's like, yes, let's go there. And then the monster hunters come back and they were like, oh no, the monster got Catharsis. It's not dead. And everybody's like, oh no. And then Laurent had previously mentioned that he didn't believe the monster was real. And she was like, what do we care? We don't believe the monster's real. Let's go to that place you were talking about. And Laurent's like, I got you. And then fucking Rourke is like, oh, that's the red hood the monster was wearing. That's the monster. And everybody's like, oh shit. So she has to run off again, and they're chasing her, and there's a high-speed chase on a horse, and she's got the crossbow bolt still in her, and it's the poison is hurting her. She's struggling. She needs to eat. She hasn't, and she gets on a horse, and it ends up careening her over a cliff.
Like me right now.
Yeah.
I have not eaten, and I'm hungry.
I did eat before this, because I'm a very smart person. But yeah, so she careens off the cliff, and she's like, well, I guess this is what happens. And when she wakes up, she's like, wow, these rocks are way softer than I thought they'd be. Like, I thought this would be way worse. And lo and behold, her husband rescued. When she careened off the cliff and fell, a woman found her, picked her up, wrapped her in a quilt, took the crossbow bolt out of her, and patched her up with some sutures, and then is ladling her some soup. And she's like, whoa, what is this dumb... plump
Batwoman
woman.
Yeah, that's literally the first thing, the first description. Wow, this plump woman.
And here we meet Homily, and Homily is like, she's tall, so she's
Maria in a fantasy world with approximately probably 50 more pounds on her. Am I wrong? I
would like to say personality-wise, not like
different.
Maria.
Oh, no. It's not Maria's personality. I just mean Maria's, like, motherly nature, mostly. Because Maria would also do the same thing, where she would have just spoon fed you soup in her used quilt that she made by herself. While monster researching.
Yeah.
That's Maria. Maria was literally the stand-in in my head for homily, which is why I thought halloumi. Fun fact, Maria, you were
Homely
homily
name
the whole
just
time.
oh great. That in my head homily was blonde. Like
Oh,
a
really? I just pictured her as this like curly, literally picture like never mind, that doesn't work because nobody's watched White Oleander. Um, you remember in White
yes.
Oleander, the where she remembers the woman from her childhood, and she's like, yeah, she had brown skin, and she had like curly brown hair, and she babysat me, and it was full of love. That's what I imagined Homily as.
I think I was influenced by the cover of the book by this point because once I paused. So again, I got to the part where Shisheshin was assembling herself out of bones at the beginning of the story and like chain links and being like, "This isn't the book I thought it was." Paused, looked it up, looked at the cover, and went, "Oh, I was just very wrong." And so she looks like she has like kind of like a short blondish light brown bob.
That
And
makes more sense considering her siblings that all have blonde hair, but
yeah,
I just pictured brown hair.
yeah. So for me, she was kind of like a tall, broad, like plump, round, soft, like woman. I don't know why, but I pictured her with round glasses. She's
Yeah,
never
that's fair.
mentioned.
She has that vibe.
Yeah, she's never mentioned as having it. But anyway, so Homily is like, "Oh, you fell. I was helping you up. Don't stress yourself too much." And she's very kind of soft spoken and meek, but also like kind and
Giving,
very
free.
giving.
Yeah.
And Homily basically says, like, "Oh, I was here researching monsters, doing some sentinelers. There was a blue bear that came by at one point, and then you just kind of fell off this cliff, and I saved you." And she's like, "Oh, this human thinks I'm human," and she's like, "She'll be very delicious to eat. I will let her as I continue to heal," because she realizes the barb's been taken out and she no longer has to deal with the rosemary poisoning.
Yeah, you know what I can't believe though? So this is my first disbelief.
I think we're going to have the same disbelief.
During the scene, I'm like, wouldn't she, as a monster person and a family full of monster, like, I hate monsters, and her with sentinels and looking for monsters, wouldn't she, while taking this barbed thing out of her, be like, this body is very strange. Like, there is no control that Shisheshin has over her body where it is a true farce. She is truly, like, when she's unconscious throughout the whole book, she ends up becoming less, like, more malleable, less solid.
Yeah, she literally talks about if she doesn't pay attention or if she's too weak
Yes.
or sick, she turns into a puddle. And this is one of those times where you see the author's hand at play. Because in other parts of the book, in this moment, Shisheshin would have fallen off that cliff with the rosemary barb and then just turned into a puddle. She just would have been like
She would
slime
have
girl
been
puddle.
literally the thing. I'm picturing literally. I'm pretty sure like I'm taking it from a video game or something that I'm thinking of, but I really would have just pictured like what seems like a massive organ. Like I'm picturing a massive organ, but with like orifices in it, and like alien-esque. So like anytime she loses shape, she's just more of a, like, think of like a giant, like, I don't even want to say a liver or something, but like,
for me, I just imagined her as like a goo puddle, like a kind of thick, opaque goo puddle, like Elmer's glue. I pictured her as a puddle of Elmer's glue.
that's interesting because I pictured her as a deflated organ, like a heart. I pictured a heart. I pictured a purple, bluish heart, but a giant purple bluish heart, and not like heart shaped necessarily, but just like an amorphous organ.
I think that works because there's a couple of points where like she kind of describes organesque things, but I don't know why I imagined her as like Elmer's glue puddle that like blob, like when kids play with like their slime and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what I was
ball.
imagining. Now, a couple of people in our comments, Angry Otter, and I think it was Courtney Lovett, have said, "I thought Homily knew the entire time, or at least suspected." The vibe I got, and those of you who suspected she knew the whole time, did the ending reinforce that for you, because I felt like the ending / the reveal was that she didn't know the whole time, and it was actually quite shock and oh wow. And because I got the vibe that she just didn't know, and it was one of those things. I think this was Science Fantastic who brought this up. In the once again, Angry Otter goes, "Shh, we don't need to think about it too much." But these
don't. You don't.
You absolutely can read this book and just go, "I'm here for a good time."
I mean, I did.
Time. But for me, I was like, especially it was less so here, but later in the book when she was like, if she got unconscious, she'd turn into a puddle. I was like, why didn't you turn it into a puddle there? And then I was like, if she took it out of you, wouldn't it not look like bleeding flesh? Because at this point, you didn't have blood yet. Because another thing is because she doesn't have a heart and a circulatory system, she doesn't actually have blood. Later in the book, we're going to get to a point where she does have blood, and we'll explain why. But she didn't here, so I'm like, this girl took this thing out of you, patched you up, and was like, that's
normal.
That's all good. And it's again like where you can tell that potentially the author wrote this at different points of developing.
Oh my god, story. I was gonna say the same thing. It's because I was like, this feels like Homily already kind of knows but is being kind to a monster.
And then at a later point, or the author didn't figure out that he wanted it to be that if she wasn't paying attention, she'd turn into a puddle. Because that's something that comes up later. It's not something you hear about earlier in the book. Anyway, Homily takes her in. She's helping her. She's like, I'll take you into town. We'll get you a doctor. And Shisheshan's like, no doctors, please. I'm fine. Just leave me for a little bit. I'll be, just drop me off. Just roll me off right here. And Homily thinks Shisheshan's really funny. She keeps saying these things that are illogical, but she thinks Shisheshan's just a comedic genius. Yeah. And she's like, and it's also hysterical.
Which I like.
Someone else in the comments mentioned of our Discord. By the way, this is one of our Discord live streams. This is our mid-month book. We highly recommend you join. It's a great time, even though I don't comment in the Discord often unless I'm really hating the book. I do read it. Somebody else mentioned that Shisheshan knows what trauma is because she talked about it previous to this point in the book, but she cannot identify laughter. Because Homily laughs, and she's like, at first, Shisheshan's like, this must be the moment before attack, the demonic braying of this sound, kind of thing. And it's one of those moments where what Shisheshan does and doesn't know feels what the author wants to get the story where they want it to go. One thing to say, Shisheshan's viewpoint is very funny. The narration, the prose that kind of gives you everything is dry, funny. It's told to you in a fun way. And
I really do like that Homily thinks that she's funny, but without meaning to be funny. It's because she's so bare and so blunt. I think that is a very good. I wish actually it had played on that in more areas, but
as Angry Otter said, for the most part, the vibes, they be immaculate. But again, if you're here for something a bit more than vibes, it's you're gonna poke some holes pretty early on. What?
Chris M said Girly Pop put in sutures with her eyes closed. God tier skills, but it's not the comment. It's that she said Girly Pop.
Girly Pop.
The only person I know who says Girly Pop is my 6th grade Bohemian student who only recently acquired American slang, and she says Girly Pop all the time. She's being sarcastic.
The only time I've heard Girly Pop was back before I stopped being on Instagram regularly, and when I watched a lot of reels. There was this girl who did that girl at a Mormon college, and she did little skits about that, and the Mormon girl at the Mormon college said Girly Pop a lot. So that's my sum total of that.
That's so funny though, because it's definitely like a very internet youthful phrase. Yes. So that's when I saw Girly Pop, I was like, oh my god.
But anyway, she's like, let's take you into town, and she can't actually like get out of the situation, but they go into town, and everyone in Overlook is like, they're like, snickering and pointing at Homily and like being weird. And at first, Shasheshan thinks they're doing that to her and they're being weird and rude to her. But then she realizes it's Homily and she's like, I wonder why. And Homily's like not doing anything in response. And she's like, wow, I wonder why this person isn't doing anything in response. And they go into, she has a room at the inn, the Red Dragon, and the guy at the inn is like, the room's free, you're not paying for it. And Homily's like,
Dude,
no, I was supposed to pay.
I thought at this time, Homily, so I'll tell you what my suppositions were, and I kind of wish they were true in some ways, but also I do like the way it progressed somewhat. Um, I thought Homily was going to be actually another monster. I thought she had all, yeah, heavily implied because Homily is a witch. Yeah, I thought that Homily was going to be a black mark, like for example, a witch or some type of
Me too.
um
That was
yeah.
exact. I thought she had like weird gills or something because she has this.
Yes, me
She always
too.
wears and she won't take off, and she's real anal about it. And everybody's like pointing at her. And I thought she was going to be a witch or she had like some curse mark because
I kind of wished that had been the case in some ways.
it
Like
would
I
have
wish
made
that had
her position in her family make so much more sense.
I really wish that like you know what I mean again there's a lot of ways you could take it, but how fun would it have been if Homily, because later on what we'll learn, and Maria will go into it more later, but what we will learn later on is that Homily's the black sheep of the family, and it's because many reasons, honestly, but one of the pretend reasons is because she leaves the home in order to try to help the family with their curse, and she believes by researching monsters and biologically understanding, like she has urine samples, she has blood samples, she has books and stuff like that. So I thought she's going to be like one of those scientific witches or something like that, like an alchemist almost. And it would have made more sense if she had gone and been a apprentice to like a witch or something like that, and that's why she was frowned upon. It's because she is like within the realm of the dark magic slash monster realm, whatever, that the family is not part of, and they're like too highbrow for that. And Homily's just like, yo, but this is like the one way you can know for sure how to defeat the monster. Like I kind of wished that was the way it was, but it's whatever.
And it's one of those things where it is, because once you find out why they're being weird to her, it does not make sense, because what you're going to get told is she is actually a wolf fire. And I'm just going to spoil this here because I need to explain why this doesn't work. The wolf fires are rich. They own everything. Like, they not everything, but they're a powerful family that also has ties to the Letobon empire.
Trade.
And they're clutched, and so there's a fear, and like everybody is like, oh, those, you can't get them mad at you. And I'm like, if that's the case, because eventually she's like, the reason everybody's being so weird is because I'm one of the wolfires, but don't worry, I'm not like my family. And you're like, but then when you see how everybody treats her family, they treat her with deference, like they treat her family with deference and like overly.
Whereas before it was like maybe it's because she was by her. Like you can reason it's because she was by herself and not with her mother, and her mother is the true power. But
yeah, but why would they, like, they don't spend enough time in Underlook for anyone in Underlook
know what she looks like? Yeah,
also,
I know.
Also to know that her mom wouldn't care if they were rude to her in some way, because the way it's sold is that the town is being rude or mean or bullying her, like she's an outcast kind of thing. It's
but also giving her whatever she wants at the same time.
Yes,
it's very weird.
It's very weird, and it's instead of like how they are with the rest of her family, where they're just giving them everything they want, but everybody's very deferential and like, oh, my lady,
yes, please, oh my goodness, my lady, like, don't kill me.
And that's not what they're doing. Shasheshan's like, why are they being so mean to her? I thought they were mean to me because I look weird. Like, is my face on right? So like, Shasheshan thought her face wasn't on right. That's how weird they were being. So it just makes no sense for them to be treating a wolfire that way. And I just, it was one of those things.
It would have made more sense. Again, the beginning of the part, it does not paint it like, oh, she's part of this family, and this family is well feared and revered. Like, it's more like she is an outcast. I genuinely did not think she was going to be part of this family. I thought She was going to be a wandering witch or a wandering creature of another type that has scientific interests, and she was going to be the anime girly that like is the weird like unemotional but also emotional character that like overly empathizes but really at her core doesn't understand emotion or something like that because of how like odd she was being treated. I don't know. I was also making a lot of suppositions, but the
Well,
point
because you
is,
have to, because you don't understand why this is happening. And the thing is, all of those ideas are much more interesting than, oh, I'm actually part of the very rich family that everybody's scared of, and that's why everybody was mean to me.
that is not
and
the way that came across.
exactly, it's so weird because like at first you're like, ooh, I wonder what the secret is, and then you find out she's just a wolfire. Why was everyone being so fucking weird? And it's one of those moments where if you, and again, Angry Otter goes manufactured sympathy because that's what it is.
People but look over there, tentacles.
Yeah, but look over there, tentacles. And it's one of those things where the weird off the wall batshit stuff this book does so well, but these little moments of like the emotional bits or the plot-y bits, don't look too hard. Again, you will poke holes like the tatami screen behind Katie. If you poke it, you're gonna make a hole. Don't look too hard. It's paper. But anyway, so they get there, they have a dinner, and she lays her down on the bed, and she's like, you lay there, I'm going to go look for some stuff, you rest. And Shisheshan has lied and said her name is Siobhan. And she's like, rest, Siobhan, I'll check your sutures when I come back. And she fucks off. Immediately, Shisheshan gets up and starts like bopping around town, and then and at this point, they've had a wagon ride, they've come to the town, and Shisheshan's like, damn, I think I love this girl. Like, already, she doesn't say love, but already she's like, I would like to take care of this girl, my girlfriend. I like her. And there's a point where she sees there's like the little bar in town, and there's a lot of people dancing, and there is her girl, Homily, sitting by herself, reading a book, and nobody is interacting with her. Everyone's dancing. Nobody wants to dance with her. And she gets this vibe where she looks at Homily and she's like, Homily wants to be danced with. She's like, I have to assemble myself a bit more to create a body so I can dance with her. So she fucks off. She goes to the butcher's shop. She gets a bunch of bones. She puts them inside her so she has a skeleton that she can dance with. She finds Laurent again, and she's like, hello, you little bitch. I will eat you and I will eat you and wear your mouth vibe. And I will make your mouth do lots of terrible things unless you go. She's like, how many men can you get to do work? Because he knows, he saw her earlier. This is the lady from last night that he was going to go off with, and who turned out to be the monster. And he's like, oh, fuck, the monster. And she's like, how many men can you get together right now? And he's like, 5, definitely 3. And she's like, you and those men need to go to my lair, and you need to, the 3 rooms on the right-hand side, you need to clean and make beautiful and spotless. Otherwise,
this is so fucking funny.
I will eat you and then wear your mouth and make it do lots of terrible things. And he's like, oh my God, okay.
Mommy, that's so hot. Yes.
You don't realize it yet here.
Not yet.
He's like, oh shit, and he fucks off, and she's like, okay, good, because she's like, this town. Oh my God, my chair's so squeaky. I'm sorry, Will. I one day I will not be here, and I'll have a nice chair. I promise. She's like, I will take this town sucks. Everyone's mean to my Homily, my girlfriend. I'm going to ask her to dance, and they dance, and she loves just touching Homily, and being close to her feels lovely and amazing. And she's like, damn, this is a bitch you could build a nest in. And she's like, if I had eggs.
It's a title.
Yeah, if I had eggs, Homily would be a bounty for my babies. And she's like, I'm going to take her out of here, take her to my lair for safeties, get out of this terrible. And so she says to Homily, she was like, let's get out of here, babe. This is a terrible place. And Homily's like, oh shit. Are you like, the vibe is like, Homily's like, oh my God, you're into me. I was kind of into you. Like, okay. So they get in her cart, like they leave. They haven't even been here a full night. They literally went in, laid her down. She fucked around. She found Homily. They danced, and they're like, let's leave and go back to my place, babe.
And they did it.
And they get in the cart, and Homily's like, we have to be careful. There's bandits. And Shisheshan is like, there's no bandits in the Isthmus. And she's not used to bandits in the Isthmus because, like, her a monster, and so it's not something she's ever had to deal with. But then bandits come and like they hurt Homily.
What is their name again?
What?
Their names are so weird.
Plutocracy.
Yes. Meritocracy and
oligarchy, something like that.
No. It's stealing. The other one was a stealing one.
Oh yeah. Kleptocracy. Also, Courtney Lovett says, living up to that lesbian stereotype, baby. Oh, the U-Hauls. Anyway, so they get into the U-Haul, cart, and they go, and they get attacked by bandits. She gets hurt. Sheshin, while Homily is distracted, kills the bandits, and they go back to her lair. She heals Homily by using some of her skin.
It's the stitches that Homily put into her own skin, and she literally was, and she puts that patch of skin / sutures onto Homily in order to, and from there she actually actively comments, she's like, wow, I've never given a piece of myself to someone, and she's like, metaphorical, and she's like, I feel strange. I feel like this is like uncomfortable or something like that.
Also, in this moment, Homily thinks she's a witch, which earlier they had a conversation about witches because Homily has a big, wide-brimmed, pointy hat and was like, I thought that's what witches wore. And then Sheshin's been wearing it this whole time. And so then she was like, oh, you are a witch. She puts the patch on Homily, and Homily's like, oh my god, what magic is this? You're a witch. I didn't realize that when I gave you the hat. And Sheshin's like, haha, yeah, I am. Okay, you go to sleep. But they have like a cute moment where they're like close to each other, and like immediately they be in love. I think Chris M made the point that at like 17% the way through the book, they're dropping like love and like those kinds of terms and feelings about each other. And Sheshin's like, you go to sleep, babe. I'm just going to deal with some shit. And she gets those bandits. She eats them. But she doesn't want to, because it'll make her too big if she digests all 3 of them right now. So she just digests part of them and then separates it from herself. And like is like, I'll come back for that later when I need an energy boost. And so she just leaves that like gray lump of herself. And she goes back because, like, Homily's calling for her. And it's like, do you want me to make you tea? I need to check your sutures. Like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, shit, there's no sutures anymore. And, like, they have this cute little moment. And this is what I meant earlier when I said that, like, the author doesn't let you, like, watch them fall in love. He just gives it to you. Because, again, they met yesterday. Okay? Yesterday. And they are like, and they are going to be a couple from this point on. Sheshin refers to her as her girlfriend, the whole time. Something, I forget how we get from here to her family coming into town. I have to say something. So when they first get there, after Homily is injured, there's a point where she talks to Laurent, and he's like, did I do a good job? And she's like, wow, there's so much less cobwebs, and there's these weird candelabras with candlesticks on them. And she looks at Laurent, and she goes, is this a place you would accept a marriage proposal? And Laurent's like, oh my god, ma'am, if you just spring it on me like that. And she's like, not to you. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, can we, like, my guys, can I, like, let them go? We've like been working up with a long time. Angry Otter, sorry, I just saw this comment. Angry Otter makes the point. I think he came up with the name Sheshin from going shh, don't think about it, because yeah. Pink Synthetic also says, I think I might have actually slapped my hand over my chest at the stitch heart. Boy, did the tone change. Yeah, so there's a point where she looks into herself, and like there is like a lump of herself that is formed around the stitches, that the sutures that Homily put inside her. Like, our girl is like in lurv. Oh yeah, and Laurent also is like, the guys are only here because I told them you'd eat them if they didn't come help. Because they do for the amount of time. Because he was like, I wish you would have given me more time. We barely got anything done. Because again, They didn't spend the night. They were there for like maybe 3 hours. I don't know how he got anything done. If he had an hour to work with, it's a miracle. This, again, it's one of those things where the book's like, shh, don't think about it. You're okay. Okay. Somebody needs to give me a memory jog. What happens? I know Homily makes her tea, but how do we connect from here to the next plot point of her family coming? I don't remember. Somebody in the chat. Oh, also, this is the moment you find out Laurent has because he asks her to threaten him, and you realize that he likes being talked to terribly and being threatened with bodily, like, very terrible bodily harm. And he's like, nobody ever talks to me this way. And you're like, Laurent, you keep that to yourself. But Shisheshan is more than happy to indulge. So they do, Dragon Slayer says they do spend the night because Sheshan said that Homily did not return to the bed prior to the dancing plot point. They did I didn't think they spent the night. I thought she popped Sheshan into bed, or I thought they spent the night at her house at the lair and not at the Red Dragon because they weren't there long enough. Like, Sheshan got up pretty quickly and found Homily. I don't know. That might be okay, let's pretend they were there a night. This is night 2 of them spending time together. Basically, Homily's mom comes into town, and Homily's like, I have to go see her, and, my family's very difficult. Oh, I remember. They sit down, and Homily's like, I need to tell you something. I haven't been completely honest with you. And Sheshan's like, babe, me too. I also need to tell you something. And Homily's like, me first, though. Mine's more important. She doesn't actually say that. But anyway, yeah, so she's like, I am actually a wolfire, and my family's been cursed, and we're hunting a monster. That's what it is. And I would like you to help us hunt the worm that killed my father and cursed my family, and, a lot of my family has died. And Sheshan's like, what? Curse? Who? Me? I didn't curse.
She's thinking this. She's like, Catharsis mentioned this curse. I can't curse anyone. Is this a mistaken identity issue?
Yeah, and she's like, maybe unrelated curse that they'll need help figuring it out. And she's like, and she basically realizes her family is hunting her, and they think she cursed them, but she's not the one who killed their dad. And, she definitely laid no curses down. In fact, everybody keeps coming and bugging her all the time.
Yeah, and she's just like, dudes, guys, I'm not a worm. I'm something else. And also, wait, what's that say, Sheshan? Like, this is super awkward as I am smiling with Catharsis'
mouth.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she's like,
oh man, and you know what's really sweet, actually? And I really wish it had, I wish that there was more framework to allow for this emotion to seem real, because it didn't feel real to me. But she feels the sudden guilt of eating Catharsis and having his body parts be her body parts. And she ends up like being really upset and ripping them out of her body. And she has to go find new body parts, basically, or new.
Oh yeah,
structures.
she has a temper tantrum. That's what it. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she has this conversation where she's like, yeah, I'm hunting this monster, and I'd like you to help me hunt her. And Sheshan's like, man, I need a minute to myself. And she goes, and she has like an all fall down, like little shit fit, and she like rips everything out of herself. She goos really hard. Eventually,
no, don't say it like that.
She does. She goos real hard. Pink Synthetic said, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm sure he's with us right now. Also, Courtney Levitt, let me tell you, this book is just ripe with fun shit you can say about that. Day 1, dance, drink, fall in love. Day 2, meet the family. That's exactly what happens. But anyway, she ends up like cobbling herself back together, seeing Homily, and Homily's like, what did you want to tell me? And she's like, I'll help you find the monster and break the curse of your family. Let's hunt your monster. And she's like, okay, I've got to make her think she finds a monster. So she fakes a sheep with a bunch of
she literally
trees.
Gets a sheep or a goat or something, and then she ties extra hilarious to it. And she's like, look,
There's
Homily,
the
there's the monster.
and Homiley's
like, oh.
she's like, what do you mean? Did somebody tie shit to a sheep? Why is it? And Shisheshin's like, damn it, my plan was foiled. I thought that would really work because then we could just say it was dead and then we could be done with this whole thing and it would be good. And then they find out her family's back in town. So they go back into Underlook, meet her mom. Her mom is a raging bitch. They also meet her sister outside and her sister's like, you ran away from the family. You're so terrible. You left me to deal with everything. You abandoned it, you bitch.
Dragon Slayer, fucking sheep, not
Not
following
the plan.
But also, I would like to mention at this point, funnily enough, I don't know, I mean, I do know why, but the Wolfire family gives very hella Berserk vibes, with the way that they are cruel to one another. It's the cruelty that imitates the cruelty that you witness in the not comic book, excuse me, the manga. It's the same thing, comic book, Japanese comic book. The manga and the anime Berserk. There's a certain level of like dark cruelty that they give towards one another, and like, what's the word? Flippant nature towards concern and like whatever, and it's just very rawly like nasty.
Yeah.
And, which of course is the trauma that Homily is coming from. But what's her name again?
Epigram.
Epigram.
Yeah.
Epigram is basically catharsis but female, and it is very like specifically stated that she feels like that she needs to, or at least this is like the projection, is that she needs to step into the role of catharsis now that he's gone as the dominant person who's going to fight for the family. And Epigram is younger than Homily by several years, and Epigram just comes across as this like, she's also a ladies' lady. She wants all of them falling for her. And so she like also has tons of lovers that like nobody blinks an eye at, but she's just like, yeah, she's just like, Homily, you're such a waste of space. You're a piece of trash. Everyone hates you. Come along, you worthless sack of shit.
And then they go meet her mom, and her mom is sitting there, and Shisheshin thinks she has a doll in her lap, but it's Homily's
her daughter,
younger sister, Ode, and her mom's like a raging bitch. And the only thing you need to know about the Wolfire family is they're all, except for Homily, assholes. Catharsis, asshole. Epigram, asshole. Mama Baroness, Wolfire, asshole.
Ode, bizarre. Very poorly raised.
Creepy child. But also asshole. And poor Homily. And our girl, Shisheshin, looks at this family and goes, oh, she's not kind because that, and giving because that was her nature. She's that way because she was forced into it by this family who took nothing, and the only way to feel useful was to give to them. And she's like, she's kind from pain, and that makes me love her all the more. And you're like, Shisheshin, will you stop therapy speaking for a goddamn minute and just go, why is she reacting like this a little bit? But anyway, they meet Mama Baroness. She's a bitch, and she's like, your brother's dead, and you were off slutting it up with a woman, you bitch. And Homily, because again, she didn't know prior to this point that it was that Catharsis's teeth could have even been in somebody else's head.
Yeah, she didn't know Catharsis was dead. She didn't know. Also, what she's saying about the slutting it up thing is basically like some people saw her dancing with Shisheshin for like 5 seconds. That was the slutting it up, by the way.
And that she wasn't in the room last night. Ooh, scandalous. And meanwhile, we know everything was pretty PG. But anyway, so then she's like, oh my god, my brother's dead. When did this happen? How did it happen? And they were like, you would have known if you gave a shit about this family.
One thing so one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to any storytelling, whether it's a movie, whether it's my webtoons, which I am obsessed with, not your typical reincarnation story right now. I've been binging the shit out of that thing. It is actually pretty good, well written, and I'm like, oh my god, thank god, because all these webtoons are horribly written. And it's those, what's it called again? There's a term for that in Japanese, where it's like you go into a world and you're like OP. Or you reincarnate and stuff. I'm sure we'll get that in the
oh my god,
chat.
What is that
Yeah,
term?
but the point is it's like that kind of thing.
Isekai.
And an isekai, yeah. Good job. But anyway, you weeboo. Anyway, um, but yeah, so one of my biggest pet peeves is when a family is ridiculously abusive for literally no structural reason. Um, and I'm just like, there has to be other things that create the hatred in humans. That now, as we will learn later, which I will not spoil it, but there is a reason that we are given for Mama Bear, and that makes sense later. So that actually
Honestly,
checks out.
I disagree. I think it would have made way more sense for
Oh, no, no,
Mama.
no. I agree, but I also like that's the only reason we're given. And if that's the reason that we're given, like that's what I'm going to eat up and I'm like, "You know what? At least there's a reason." There is no reason for anybody else to be so nasty to Homily. There is no reason. And I as as an abused victim, I'm just it gets me angry when it is not represented as a psychological war. Like a true psychological war where there's issues, there's like inherited like there's got to be something that leads to this hatred. It can't just be everybody hates you, so then the reader loves you. It's because they're like, oh, poor
Man,
character,
manufactured
and
sympathy. And that's
it's
what it
so
feels like.
irritating.
It is. It feels like poor me, sad me for the sake of poor me, sad me. Like that.
Yes.
That because what I think I would have preferred is maybe she had a bad relationship with one or maybe even two of her siblings, and what she thought was a good relationship to her mother, and maybe a good relationship with one of her siblings, and that because like we're gonna get a reveal about one of her family members at the end, and I will make the argument that instead of having all of her family being a mustache twirling villain, having this
Yeah.
particular family member be kind, empathetic, manipulative through being a good, powerful political person, but not like a raging bitch, because like she's so mustache twirling and shitty that you see it coming a mile away, and it's just not like it feels manufactured. Anyway, her
Yeah.
family sucks. They're like, yeah, we're going on the hunt, blah blah blah, fuck you, we don't like you, Siobhan, girlfriend of our daughter that we don't like, everybody hates her, and nobody, like even the servants don't talk to Homily nicely, like, and they ignore her, like
Which is so dumb. Which
it's
is so dumb
so
because realistically, that's just not humans' work.
like the servants don't mirror how, like, because number one, most rich powerful people, even if they have a child they don't like that they talk shit to, the servants don't get to, because that's just not a thing that happens. But anyway, and then there's a dinner, and Shashashin's like, I'm going to try and ingratiate myself into the family, even though they all suck, and I'd like to eat more of her siblings, and maybe her mother. But she's like, I got to impress my girlfriend's family. So
Yeah.
she goes in, and at the start of dinner, everybody has to drink rosemary wine
To prove that they're
prove
not the shape-shifting monster, because then it's revealed to us that, wait, lo and behold, the worm we're talking about is actually a Shisheshin worm. Like, it's a monster that is supposed to be like Shisheshin. The expectation from Mama Wolfire,
Wolfire.
is that the creature can shapeshift. And so during that conversation we get with Homily and Mom Bitch is that yeah, actually, this is not a mistaken identity. There is some type of other Shisheshin that is expected to exist. And so she expects the shape-shifting, the adoption of the body parts, the weird creature-esque creature stuff. And so I wish that was actually more acknowledged in that moment where Shisheshin is like, is this my mother they're talking about? Like, I'm like, come on. Yeah, like, bring it together.
There's also a point where they're told that the Baroness slew the monster that killed the old Baron, and she's like, oh snap, this lady, because the Baroness also has the metal claws. So one of the things, as I said it before, these creatures are amorphous blobs, but they can have weapons within them that they kind of take on as tools. And her mom had these like metal claws that she used as
It was just a metal
fang,
upper teeth. It was a denture.
metal fangs.
Yeah, it was one single set of metal steel fangs that she remembered her mother having as the upper set of her teeth, and she used them as weapons. And she sees upon the Mistress Wolfire that exact set, which it takes her a minute to like connect it, which I thought was realistic, um, um, as a necklace. And I'm thinking, and as Maria's thinking, as everybody else is thinking, oh, Mama Wolfire killed Secession's mother.
And she even says that like she killed the previous worm like and creature, and now they have to kill this one. And you're like, oh, because now Secession's like, you are not only a terrible, shitty mother to my girlfriend, whom I love and will die for, by the way, but you also stole me, my relationship with my mother. Because again, in her head, she has this very rosy idea of parents and parenthood. Like, obviously, she had to eat her dad. That's the way life goes. But like, she could have had a relationship with her mom, but then this lady killed her. Sucks to suck.
Pink Synthetic does make a good point thematically, but I just think literally in the story it doesn't come out really great, which is that I felt it was more that the kids were an example of molding something mentally instead of how the slime monster is molded physically, which is a wonderful motif, but it's not, I just don't think it's
It's
enacted
too heavy-handed. It's one of those things where it's so heavy-handed, it doesn't feel organic in the story. It feels like the author was crafting it specifically to do that. It's like when, somebody's like, and the theme is this, and we were like, yes, you battered us over the head with it. And it's because they don't feel like actual people that developed with these issues. Homily does a little bit, but everybody else just feels like caricatures. They're caricatures. Exactly. Everybody has to drink rosemary wine at the dinner. She drinks it and like kind of sequesters it in a human lung that she was carrying, and then
which is really cool.
And shoves it into her boot that she has so that it doesn't kill her. And she does it because she needs to make a good impression for Homily. Like she's a ride or die for Homily, to the point where she's like, at some point we're going to have to talk about her becoming the mother nest of my children.
Which, you know what? It worked for me only because of one reason. And that is because Secession, at the end of the day, is a monster. She is an animal. And because she is an animal and not quite a human, those kind of instincts overtaking her and controlling her thoughts and actions, that sells it for me for a little bit.
See, like I do within the like impulse of like egg laying.
Yes,
she very quickly goes from like egg laying to no, I love her so much.
That's the problem.
Beyond egg laying, that I wouldn't even do that to her, because that's not true love. That is using someone without consent. Yeah, like how do you fucking know that, Secession, you monster ass bitch who can't read and doesn't osmosisly get information? Anyway, like Angry Otter said, don't think about it. Shh. Tentacles! Anyway, so at the end of dinner, everybody's basically like, okay, you can come on the hunt with us, Homily's weird girlfriend. That's fine.
That we don't trust, but like you're here, I guess we'll use you meat.
This starts like kind of the expedition portion of the book where they're hunting the monster. They're going out, there's tents, there's all these guards and mercenaries, and they're trying to find stuff, and Secession's like, okay, how am I going to partake in this while they're actually hunting me? Like, how am I going to deal with this? And very quickly, it gets personal, because Homily mentioned that some people in town said, or no, somebody else mentions that people in town said the blue bear is actually the pet of the worm of Underlook. And they're like, oh ho ho. Homily was like, yeah, it came to some other sense I did. And so they basically trap Blueberry.
The poor thing!
Yeah, poor Blueberry, who's just the nicest blue bear you've ever seen in your life. And they use her as a lure to draw out Secession, and poor Blueberry's just skewered and like on the ground, and she can barely get up, and she's just making these noises. And then Ode, the shittiest of the Wolfire children, is like, raw bear, raw, and starts hitting her and like smacking her, and then to the point where Blueberry's like crying out in sadness, and everybody's just watching this like, this is appropriate behavior for a child. What
Maria doesn't know is that she has an Ode in her. And the ode could come forth at any moment she chooses, but she is a better human being than to let that ode out, because that was way too on point. This is actually my favorite part in the entire book, by the way. I think this was the most where I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if Blueberry was going to die. I didn't know if Shisheshan was going to get found out. I didn't know what Homily was going to do. And so there's this really interesting moment. It is a manufactured emotion, like Pink Synthetic says, because everybody loves Blueberry.
Because it's like Shisheshan's like the dog, or not Shisheshan, Blueberry's like the dog in the story where you're like,
yes,
we don't hurt the
John
dog.
Wick. It's the puppy in John Wick. You're like, you don't kill the puppy. Like,
also, you find out that Blueberry's an endangered species, the last of her kind.
So that only adds to it. So it is
I hated
like
this.
I liked the scene though. It's not that part that I like. It's that I like that so I don't like the way it is enacted, but I like that it exists in the story because I feel like it's a true issue that needs to be solved, and it feels organic in the way that, like, it would make sense to use something like this as a lure. It would make sense that Shisheshan...
What I don't like is that Shisheshan is so concerned about Homily, she doesn't immediately make a plan to rescue Blueberry. She just watches Blueberry get fucking tortured by this terrible ass child.
Incorrect, ma'am. I get what you're saying.
No, it's fucking correct. Eventually, she's like, maybe I can get Homily to end this. But, like, if it was me...
That's not exactly what's happening. So, okay, I'll tell you what I wish happened, but I'll tell you why I like this. I like it because, again, it's one of the few moments where I'm just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen at this moment. I don't know what negative ramifications are going to happen. Because, so far, I thought once Homily met Shisheshan, I thought I knew exactly what was going to happen. It was going to be super boring. And then it wasn't. In ways it was, but it wasn't the way I thought it was going to be boring. And so I was like, oh, okay, so we're going in a completely different direction with this story. And then, genuinely, once Homily met Shisheshan and Shisheshan was like, I'm in love with you, like, instantly, I was like, oh, I know where this is going to go. I know exactly how this is going to play out. And then it didn't exactly fit that, so I liked that.
I like the tension of this scene. I just don't like Shisheshan's reaction.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you what I would have preferred after I say why I like what I like in this. So I like that Shisheshan's like, Homily is the one person that can do something for me. It's because she is a wolfire. Mistaken. Already she should have known better. So incorrect. But nonetheless, she's like, Homily should be able to help. Homily's too busy, like, being in trauma mode. So she's like, Homily's never going to help me. And so she can't actively go and rescue Blueberry because there's too many people with weapons. There's too much Rosemary. There's too much everything. There's too many people guarding Blueberry. Like, I did like the technicalities where it explained, like, there's a watch of 3 to 4 people at any time because they won't go alone because they're smarter than that. And they're going around the bear in a watch, and then they have the people on the bear, and then you have, like, shitty Ode doing Ode stuff, and then it's, like, near the camp and everything. And so Shisheshan's like, okay, well, Homily can't help me, so I'm on my own. Number one, I wish she got angry at Homily for this. I don't think it's right that she didn't get angry. Number two, so she goes into the group, and I thought, oh, okay, so she's going to kill the group while they're out. But then you realize, oh, wait, the 2 monster hunters are part of the group. She can't just simply kill them because they know what's what. And so I'm like, okay, I like that. I like that there's, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I thought she was just going to kill them and go rescue Blueberry, but she can't. And then she goes to assassinate one of the people in the group because it's dark and it's windy. And I do like the environmentals of this moment because she's like, a storm came through. And, oh, what luck. And so there's this, like, really high wind and there's a storm. And so they can't really hear very well. And it's a very big distraction. And so she's going to go kill somebody. But I forget what happens exactly, but something happens, and so she actually gets pushed backwards, and as she gets pushed backwards, there's some foreshadowing to this moment, which I thought was a little heavy-handed, but whatever, it's fine. It made sense, though, to lay that trap, if
Groundwork.
you will. And she steps into a bear trap, and she's like... And she, like, and then she does go rescue. It's because what happens is there's actually... Oh, that's what it is. There's actually the amalgamation that she vomited up earlier, that was, like, throbbing and everything from the thieves that she had eaten, and she'd given up a part of herself, actually becomes, like, a creature in and of itself that's, like, searching her out.
She doesn't know this at this point.
No, not at all.
She just sees a giant blob with deer skulls inside it that are clacking. and it attacks the group she's in.
And so anyway, she uses that distraction as an opportunity to go help Blueberry. And we'll get into it. Maria can cover the plot bits after that. But the point is I was like, okay, this didn't play out the way I thought it would. So that's nice. I'm glad it at least took a slight difference. But what I'm not happy with is that Shisheshin feels cold in a lot of moments.
Agency, and this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what's angry making.
That's what I'm saying. She doesn't go with those group of men hoping for a distraction, because this is what my point is. She sees the things with Blueberry and she goes, oh, well, can't help. What can you do?
Poor she's she's upset. Get it?
No. She's upset, but she literally, there's not even a try at a plan.
She doesn't even go up and say, oh, get the fuck off of my bear or something like that.
Listen, as a pet parent, I don't care if it's going to put me in. Because what I wanted was for her to be like, I'm going to go get that other half of my body. And if they want the monster, I will bring the monster over somewhere else. Then I'll separate myself again. I'll run back while everyone's distracted. I'll rescue Blueberry.
Maria and I are on the same page. This is what
because that's called fucking agency, and that's your goddamn pet. Blueberry, who's the nicest bear who helps you get prey when you're too weak to get it yourself. You fucking bitch!
It's just the biggest thing that I hated in this moment is Shisheshin is built up as this really cool monster. And she has been culled. She's been emasculated, if you will, in many moments because she has to play nice. And I like that. That provides tension. That's fun. But in this one moment, I don't understand why she didn't just go eat a whole bunch of people and then become the monster they all expected. It's because I wanted that.
She could have literally, because we know she can shapeshift pretty awesome. She can literally get real big, real huge, get a bunch of stuff, go rah, and then disappear. Everybody will go running for her. She can separate herself again, go back into camp, free while everyone's distracted, free Blueberry, which is what ends up happening. And so what I would have liked is, this is how I would have liked the scene. Let me talk about how the scene plays out in a bit more detail, and then we'll talk about what I would have preferred.
Because this is a very important scene.
She literally gets roped into going on a not a raid, where a scouting party, like some soldiers, the two monster hunters. She gets roped into a scouting party.
She doesn't get roped. She chooses.
I mean, she does, but again, she's not going on this scouting party because she thinks it's going to help Blueberry. She's like,
no, she does. I remember very vividly. She's like, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill this one person, I'm going to kill the other people, and somehow I'm magically going to get Blueberry free, which I thought was really dumb. Again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying she did go with the intention of freeing Blueberry, but it's just dumb. No offense,
it's terrible.
Wait, his name's John, right?
John, yeah. So she goes into the woods with these guys. They end up getting attacked by this other monster that she doesn't recognize with the clacking skulls, and it's actually a really terrifying description. It's a really cool description.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just like eating people and adding people to its entourage of like itself.
It's very much No Face from Spirited Away.
Yeah, and immediately I'm like, oh, this is another of Shisheshin. It's another, like, is it a sibling that was raised in the wilderness on its own?
No. I immediately knew it was what she threw up. And I was like, Shisheshin, you should know it was what you threw up.
And that's the thing, is you're immediately like, okay, so what? So it ends up attacking, and then she's like, perfect opportunity while everyone's distracted. I'll go. And she goes and she frees Blueberry. Blueberry scampers off, still with all the skewers in her. And then the monster comes back in, and Homilly's like, Shisheshin! Or not Shisheshin. Siobhan, where are you? And so her and Siobhan her and Homily go into a tent with Ode. After Blueberry's freed, and go in with Ode, and Ode's like, I don't want to be in here with you two, and like they have a romantic moment, and she's like, you two are boring. I hate you. I want to go out and see the monster. I'm going
Maria's
outside.
Too good at this, everybody. Yeah. Maria's too good
I hate Ode so much. And she's
Ode is the most irritating character ever.
Yeah. And she and they're in the tent that they're in is a cage. It's got fabric on the outside, but it's a cage specifically to protect Ode. And she was thrown in here. She was like, I want to be in Mama's tent. I don't want to be in here with you two. And so she's like, I'm going out to see what's happening. And she opens the tent
and flap. She gets gobbled the fuck
immediately. The monster is right out. She looks up. There's slime dripping from the head.
I loved the scene.
And she just looks up at it, and then it eats her, and Homily goes to get go to grab Ode, and Shisheshin's like, sorry, Mike. And she literally And this is one of those moments where you're like, Homily has to know, because Shisheshan describes that she like makes extra limbs to hold Homily back. And it's just, and you're like,
It's
maybe
fine.
in
It's
the
fine.
moment watching your little sister get eaten, you don't put those kinds of things together. And so
Notice.
this is the one moment I forgive it. But the other ones, to Tommy Matt, you poke the holes through, or to Tommy Screen, you poke the holes through. Anyway, and then everybody's like, oh my god, Ode got eaten. The Baroness is like, grief. I'm going to disappear and I'm talking to Ode as if she's still
But
alive.
it also, hey, as a small aside to John, if you ever watch this, so obviously Maria and I are giving you lots of feedback. But the one thing I would say as a tiny feedback bit, it says that I'm as if he's gonna watch this, I think this is a really good writing bit actually and characterization bit, and I know what people will argue, and it's such a small thing, but it says that after O dies, Mama becomes kind of and crazed in a way because of the grief or like the loss, and so she's like, Ode, where are you? Ode, come out. And it very much sells itself as a mother in grief looking for a child that has just been killed and she can't accept it. And so I bought that. We will learn shortly that that is not necessarily the case. Or, no, that's not true. What I will say is this. Mom is not who she says she is, which we will learn shortly. And that does not line up with that characterization because Mom didn't actually care and she did not lose her sanity. So that detail of her looking for Ode is, again, one of those manufactured parts where it's like, oh, Mom being creepy and crazy because she just lost her creepy, crazy child, looking around for her. But it doesn't actually logistically make sense because of the truth behind Mom's identity. And I'm just like, once that's revealed, I'm like, why did you tell us that?
Yes.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. So there are little details like that that happen all over the place. We've mentioned a couple of them, but they end up adding up to an issue. And that's what ends up being 1/3 of my issue for this whole book. But anyway, continue.
The next day, everybody's like, oh my god, what? Like we said, Baroness is running around talking to Ode, who isn't there, and being weird about it. Homily is kind of sad about the whole thing. Shisheshan's like...
Homily's annoyingly inert and not an active character, and so I actually don't give a flying F about her. The whole book, honestly. I don't care about Homily.
I did at certain moments. It's one of the unfortunate things that when you craft a character like this, so Homily is a not as well done Toru Honda. From Fruits Baskets. The main character in Fruits Baskets.
I've never watched or read Fruits Baskets.
Basically, she's very kind, she's very giving, but because of her past and like the things that she's gone through,
she allows too much to happen.
But Toru also has other parts to her that we get to see and kind of interact with. And Homily has a little bit of that. It's that kind of archetype. But unfortunately, because the book has to sell a lot of the like trauma and terrible things that happen to her, you get too much of just that side of Homily and not enough of like everything else that you know, like more about her personal sense of humor, the things that she personally likes and stuff like that give her kind of flesh her out. Again, as a couple, I like these two archetypes.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I bring up Fruits Baskets because in Fruits Baskets she also ends up with the monster.
Wait, who did she end up with?
The cat. He's a cursed monster.
Oh, really?
Very similar archetypes, except Kyosoma is much less quirky goo lady than he is. Just like also that show is literally family trauma and how it shapes you. Like I'm honestly fucking shocked, Katie, you've never watched it.
I've never watched it.
So yeah, Homily can sometimes read a little bit flat because we're only kind of getting that one side of her for a chunk of the book versus the beginning and the end where we get more of her. Like she feels much more well-rounded at those 2 points. This middle section, because it's just a lot of it, and also the plot is just like happening, and so there's a lot less room for our girls to be cute little girl and monster girlfriend
or character. That's again one of the second weakness of the book, in my opinion, is the lack of the development in their relationship. I think it's put on the back burner for Shisheshan's plot line, and I mean, honestly, that's more interesting to me at this moment. But since the key and the soul to the book is their romance. I felt like it should have been developed more.
And it's for me, the actual plot and the mystery of like, what's gonna happen, what's the thing with the monster, how is this gonna, like, that stuff is like actual plot, but it should have been within the longer book,
Yes.
also surrounded by more development, because again, as Katie said, it's the heart of it. And I'm a slow burn bitch.
Yeah.
I'm a slow burn bitch. I like to see these things develop a little bit. But anyway, so Shisheshan ends up going back to her lair to try find the thing she needs to, like, and she was like, oh wow, it's missing. And then she's like, oh, that thing in the woods, that was it was the other piece of me. Oh my god. And it hates the wolf fighters, so it ate Ode, and it and it was trying to commune with me, and I didn't realize it. Oh my god, did I like make a child?
Yes, but also simultaneously, we've really not talked a lot about it, but all this time so far, since she truly realized she loved, or what she thinks is love, which is love in this case, for Homily, she actually, her eggs that she produces, she's never produced them before for anyone because she hasn't ever met a nest that she wants to build them in, or put them in. The eggs actually seem to have a mind of their own, and they're like a heart. They're an organ that's very gross. It has spikes in it, and it hurts her actively when she holds them back.
At first, you just think she's grown a heart because she's like, suddenly she has blood, and she also, her chest aches when she thinks of Homily, or if things go wrong, or like Homily's upset, and she's like, oh my god, did I develop a heart? She literally opens her chest, and it's like, oh my god, there's a thing that makes blood inside me.
There's eggs.
But no, she doesn't realize they're eggs now.
No, not yet. At this point in the book, yes, when she goes to the thing, I think she already knows they're eggs.
She still doesn't know they're eggs yet. She thinks it's a heart, and she's like, "Oh my god, what is this heart? Like this thing
that I've developed? What's wrong with me?"
And it's a bit of a
it feels like a parasite too.
Yeah, but also because she originally she's just like, "Oh my god, did I develop a heart?" And she's like, because it gives her pain whenever Homily is sad, or when she thinks about things, like when she does that whole thing where she rips herself up, and like when has her little shit fit earlier in the book. It's all this, and she's like, I hate this organ, because she keeps saying, I gotta rip my heart out, like I gotta get rid of this organ that's making me be irrational. Because yes, Dragon Slayer 19 says, oh no, this useless organ will be a weakness for me.
Also, Chris M's comment,
why doesn't Homily recognize Shisheshan's lair as her childhood home? No idea. I had the same thought. Or I literally, when she was like, I'll bring her to my lair, I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, from the start, I kind of thought she was a Wolfire. But I also was like, wouldn't everyone know this was the Wolfire's lair? So even if she wasn't a Wolfire, wouldn't people be like...
Not just the Wolfires, you mean the Shisheshan's lair. Like, no, wouldn't she know?
But it was the Wolfire's ancestral home. Even if you're not a Wolfire yourself, wouldn't you walk into that and be like, wow, it's really weird you live in the lair, the old ancestral home of the Wolfires that is the lair of the monster here. Like, it's real weird. I don't understand, because like that's also...
wait, Pink Synthetic makes some point. Isn't it their ancestral home, as in she thought that it was abandoned long before? Yeah, but also wasn't that where Dad's body was?
Yes, they were living there. That's where
and it got bombed.
And the Baroness even says there was a lot of servants she had to deal with. Post killing Dad. So no, this was a fully functional country manor, guys. Fully functional. I don't understand why Homily's like, wow, this is a real nice place you got here.
I've never seen this before.
Anyway.
Oh, we were on the part where the heart, the eggs, we were talking about Ode just dying.
Ode dies. Oh, she goes back to the thing. She realizes that the monster from last night was actually the lump she left. And she was like, oh shit, now I've got to deal with this offspring issue. The mom is like, oh, we saw the monster. We need to hunt for it. And Shisheshan's like, I'll come with you. And she's just being a real dick. She's being real rude to our girl, Homily. Epigrams being a bitch.
You FB, like, my daughter my waste of space offspring.
And she keeps being like, "You want something from me. Your kind always does. I'll figure it out." But she ends up, and I think I'm skipping some stuff here, but I think it's fine.
It doesn't matter.
She ends up going on like this hunt with Homilly's mom to find the monster in the woods, mainly because she's like, I think that's a piece of me that I need to like not like get killed. And she's like, also, I hate this bitch, the Baroness. Homilly's real fucked up about all of this stuff. I'll just eat her and it'll be easy peasy. So she goes off with her, and there's a point where it's just the two of them. Everyone else is fucked off. And she like stabs.
And Shisheshin grows really long, like dagger-like, and she's just like, Fitch!
Dragon Slayer said she also suspects that the monster was coming for her and not for the Wolfires. They go out, and she literally fachings the Baroness Wolfire through the throat, and she's like, I did it. I killed her. And she's like, now I'm going to get that fangs, my mom's fangs from her, and take back, and fuck her. She stole my mom. And she's like trying to undo the clasp, and the body's twitching. And then all of a sudden, and immediately you, as the reader, are like, oh, I see what's happening here. That was a little tiny Moana thing for anyone listening, and was like, was that a Moana reference? It was. Madame Wolfire like bodies her, and it turns out Madame Wolfire is also a slime monster, and she's not just any slime monster. She's Shisheshin's mom. She's actually the one that killed their dad, the Baroness, the Wolfire Papa, and the Wolfire Mama. Killed Mama first, planted her eggs in Papa, and has been just pretending to be Madame Wolfire this whole time, and is actually back here to get the eggs of her offspring, because she gives us some world building for the mush monsters, the blobby boys and girls. Potentially all girls. We never hear of a boy slime monster. But anyway, so the Blobettes, we'll call them. And she basically says that they can live about 100 years, but after that, they don't live that long unless they eat an egg sac, which will give them extended longer life. And most of them don't, they just eat their own egg sacs. They don't let them live, and so they don't live as long as
they're smart.
Yes, if they're smart, they'll let their offspring grow, get big, and then they'll eat their offspring's egg sac, and that way they get to live longer. So there's no survival of the whole species. It's survival of me, bitch. And the
Which
idea
I did like.
Yes, I love this as a concept. I also love it because it gives an explanation for why Shisheshin doesn't know anything. That these are very independent creatures who do not share world building, and like it's like when you're raised in a very conservative family who doesn't explain what a period is, and you're like, what do? And so at one point Shisheshin's like, you didn't make any other monsters outside, like any other children outside of egg sacs? And her mom's like, what are you talking about? You only make children through egg sacs. And Shisheshin's like, well, I'm just going to keep that little piece of information to myself. And so they have a battle, and she was like, I'm going to eat your eggs, and then I'm going to go, and then and I will take up the guise of one of my children, because that's why our girl Shisheshin's like, why do you have these kids, and why are you raising them? That's really weird. And she was like, how else am I going to continue being in control? I'm supposed to age and die. The Baroness is supposed to age and die, but then I can just take on the guise of one of the children and just keep living forever.
Yeah, and that makes total sense, honestly. And I like the Baroness as a villainess. I really do. I just wish the rest of the story allowed for her to shine more.
And there's also this moment where, so earlier I realized that Shisheshin's dad, the person she thinks of as her dad, and Homilly's dad are the same person.
Oh my god, I thought they were going to be sisters.
I thought they were going to be sisters as well.
I know, I was like, oh wow, you want to F your sister and have babies with your sister. And I was like, is he going to go there? Is he gonna go there? And he didn't.
Because there's this thing that people talk about, especially when you have sperm in the sperm donor community. There's this problem where siblings, if they don't know that they're siblings, because they're siblings, are very attracted to each other. There's a sense of kinship that people have. So there is a huge danger with sperm donated kids who don't know that they're siblings, that they end up together in romantic relationships because of that
Which is
pull
not their fault,
towards
but
each
it
other.
makes sense.
No,
And it's really a mind F.
and so I thought, is that what's happening here, kind of thing? Like, but
I thought that was what was going to happen.
It's not. It's not at
I'm
all.
glad.
Yeah,
I'm
me
glad,
too.
honestly.
Me
Like,
too.
I didn't want that. It was
Mm-mm.
already very, very heavy. So I was like, if you're going to add that on top of it, it's going to be like a little too much for me.
And this is where we learned that Ode was like who the Baroness was banking on taking over, that she had kind of crafted Ode to be like an insane person so that whatever she did, it could be covered as that. But also she had already planned to marry off Ode to the Prince of Le Tabon, basically making her like the Empress of the world kind of thing. And that's why she was so upset that Ode died.
Which makes sense. That makes total sense.
And now she has to settle for, oh, actually, Pink Synthetic is also saying this. Now she has to settle for epigram or homily because Catharsis or Ode were the ones she was banking on taking over the bodies of. And now it's going to probably be fucking homily. Like, and she'll just have to pretend that homily had like a psychotic snap, and that's why she's acting weird after that. But anyway, our girl manages to escape and is like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. I not only need to confess everything about what just happened to Homily, I need to tell her that I'm a monster, because otherwise none of this is going to make sense. So she like sneaks back into camp, and she goes into Homily's tent, and Homily is sitting there with her blue cloak that she's been wearing, and like she's talking to the back of Homily because she can't look at her, and Homily's being very still.
Which,
and immediately
it's
you're
irritating
like,
to me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's irritating that you're like, oh, this isn't Homily.
It's not Homily. Immediately you're like, this isn't Homily. Immediately would have been like, oh my god, Siobhan, are you okay? I've been so worried. But Shasheshan's injured. She's not paying attention. She's very in her feels about what she needs to do. And she's like, oh, also, it was a little bit before this where she realized that she had eggs. So it was before the conversation with the mom. When she went back into her lair to find the like she went to kiss.
The point is that she realizes at this point that there are eggs. Read it if you want to know the exact moment.
She also knows that she is not putting these eggs in Homily. Ain't no way it's happening.
Which is, I think, a huge cheat for us, the viewers, to not have a moment where she fights with herself on that. Like as in,
yes!
like, I don't mean fights as in fights the eggs back, because we get lots of that. I mean fights as in, oh wait, this is a nature mechanism making me want to do this, but I psychologically am beyond this and are more sophisticated than my base nature, and I love Homily. Like, we don't get that. We don't get, like, that process, and yes. I think that's a cheat.
She very quickly is like, oh no, if I plant eggs in Homily, I will just be, no, not even that, I will be perpetuating her sacrificing herself for the good of everyone else. Again, the very sophisticated therapy understanding of trauma and all of that stuff. But anyway, so she's talking to Homily, and she's basically like, I lied. My name's not Siobhan. I don't actually have a name. And I love you, and I'm a monster, but I'm not the monster that killed you guys. I don't put any curses, and also I have these eggs, and they want to live inside you, but I won't let them because I love you. I want to be with you. I hate talking to people and being around people, but I like being around you, and, you know, I just want to take care of you, this whole thing. And then Epigram gets up.
Lo and behold.
And Epigram's like, you schmuck, you in love schmuck, and then crossbow bolts her. She immediately puddles. Not only did she take a beating from the Baroness mom, but she also now has this crossbow. She puddles. Epigram just leaves her and is like, can't wait to show Homily. Brings Homily in and is like, look at your girlfriend. She was the monster the whole time. And she came in here and confessed her love to me and said she didn't
she didn't actually want to kill you, and that she's actually fighting her base nature because she loves you so much. And I'm like, why are you
what a fucking idiot, right? And Homily's like, oh my god, she said that? Like, because immediately, like, she's looking at this and she's like, Siobhan, why didn't you da-da-da-da-da? And then, and also in this moment, Epigram's like, yeah, there ain't no curse. I never believed in it. And Homily's like, shocked Peek-a-Few face.
What? There's no curse. You guys have been abusing me for years and years and years because of the stupid curse, and there's no curse. That,
she immediately looks at Shasheshan and goes, you mean we've been hurting her and attacking her this whole time, and there's not even a curse? And I'm like, that's what you took away from... Anyway, basically, in this conversation, Homily goes, oh, wow, my family has been terrorizing this creature this whole time. in response to a curse that doesnn't actually exist, that I've literally spent my life trying to solve.
We skipped out on a gigantic.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you notice at the same time. Really quickly, let me just say, Epigram has been abusing Homily for years and years and years, because Homily, when Epigram was younger, Epigram was my little sister. You guys don't know this lore. But when my little sister was younger, she probably needed a lot of psychological help. She'll never see this, so it doesn't matter. And you don't know her name, so it doesn't matter. But the point is she probably should have gotten therapy. And my grandparents are like, hey, mother of the child of this child, you should probably go get her checked out. There's something wrong with her. She has the signs of, she's wetting her bed into her 9 years. She's torturing small animals sometimes, every now and again. She doesn't get along with people her own age. She's only empathetic to children younger than her. And she's only gentle with those. She is violent. She bangs her head against the wall when she doesn't get her way. There's something probably inherently like she needs a little help. And my stepmother was like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. And so my little sister, lo and behold, one day, and it was the last day I ever babysat her, she stabbed me. And it wasn't a bad stab, but it was an 18-year-old girl is getting stabbed by her 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Her 11-year-old younger sister is stabbing her or trying to hurt her with a kitchen knife. And so that's Epigram. Epigram was like, bruh, I kind of want to hurt you. And Homily's like, I'll let you hurt me because then you'll feel like you're killing the monster. And so, yeah, all these years, Epigram has basically been, the phrase, it wasn't a bad stab. It wasn't. It's not like I had like a 4-inch deep stab. It was like a 1-inch. And it was because I was quick and smart about my faculties and locked myself in the bathroom. But anyway, the point is that that's Epigram. And so also Epigram has been horribly abusing Homily her whole life.
On her, specifically her neck. The reason our girl wears that scarf all the time is because Homily would like literally at one point when Homily was supposed to get married off, Epigram slit her throat, and luckily there was a doctor there. The guy she was supposed to marry's dad was a doctor, so she was able to survive. But then he was like, your family's weird, we're not. And so like,
yeah,
we out. But basically, and it comes from Homily letting Epigram use her to get her frustrations out.
Yeah.
And it's just real fucked. It's just real fucked. And you're like, ugh. But anyway, so in this moment, Epigram's like, oh, I forgot to mention that prior to all of this happening, they basically decided that they were going to use Homily as bait to drag the monster out. And Homily was like, yes, I will be bait for my family. And Shisheshan was like, no, can we not do that? You always are sacrificing for your family. And she's like, this will be the last time I do it. I promise. This is the last time. And Shisheshan's like, yeah, it is the last time if you fucking die, bro.
Yeah.
But anyway, she does it. She's wearing the blue cloak.
She's like, oh, look at this pathetic creature that actually loves something like you.
So then Homily is sitting, Epigram, her torturer for all these years, talking shit about Shisheshan, who's sitting there like, I love you. I'm a puddle. No.
I don't want to plant my eggs in you, even though they want to be in you.
Yeah, and Homily is basically like, she ingests all the things. She slits her sister's throat.
Which is wild to me. I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, neither did I. I was expecting something to happen, but slitting her sister's throat was just anyway.
It's probably the anger. The thing is to me, it feels real because in that moment, there was so much stuff being shoved in her face that was so effed that she was just like, I'm done. And that's what I liked about Homily in those moments, is that I wish we got more of her so we could have gotten those moments that were more satisfactory.
She slits her sister's throat, immediately is like, Shisheshan, why did you come back here? Or Siobhan, why did you come back here? You could have run away. And she's like, because I love you and I needed a safety. And they basically like talk it out. Shisheshan tells her about that, like her mom's actually the monster, and she's like, oh shit. And she's like, it can't be. And then she's like, were there ever times where these things happened with your mom? And anybody was like, that's kind of weird. And she was like, actually, You're fucking right. There were some weird times. Oh my god, mom's a monster. We've got to stop her. So they craft a plan.
And then Shushin accidentally starts eating her sister at one point when Homily walks out.
Homily goes out to get to retch and cry because she just, murdered her sister. And then Shushin, who is literally starving, just starts eating her. And then Homily comes back and is like, and there's literally a scene where Homily's like, have you been eating people this whole time? And she's like, not a lot. I ate those bandits. And Homily's like, yeah, I didn't like that. And because Shushin's like, and we didn't really like them. So I think that's
yeah.
okay.
And then as she's eating, she's just like, I did think this was very funny. Because Shushin's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so hungry. And I like that. And then she was like, I won't eat the rest of her for now. Unless I have your permission.
Yeah, and they end up crafting a plan where Shushin's going to take the guise of Epigram. So, and
she does eat her,
and she does fully eat her. Homily has to stay outside for that, but she takes the guise of Epigram because the little second blob, the offspring of Shushin, is being chased by Mama Baroness
because she thinks that's like she actually
she thinks there's Baroness, two babies.
She thinks they're twins because she literally says, "Oh, so there were twins," and so she thinks that this other one also has eggs, probably.
And so she's chasing them, and everybody thinks that other monster got the offspring went into Underlook, the town, and Homily's mom, I guess also Shushin's mom, the Baroness, really fucking likes bombs. She likes blowing shit up. So they're literally blowing up Underlook, and Shushin confesses, not only do I have these eggs that I don't want my our mother to eat, but I also have my offspring that she's chasing. And Homily's like, don't worry, we'll rescue your offspring. And so they go into Underlook. She's disguised as Epigram, and they're trying to make everyone think that Baroness is acting weird by being like, "Why are you responding this way?" And her two daughters are like, "Wow, you're real weird. Do you need to sleep? Have you drunk some rosemary wine?" And they're just trying to sow some malcontent, discord with her power, her position, and the idea that she isn't, because everyone has to drink rosemary wine all the time to prove that they're not secretly the shape-shifting monster, except for the Baroness. She's the only one who gets away with it, except they play into it, and they're like, when was the last time you had wine? Has anyone seen her drink wine? And Homily's like, drink it with me, Mom. It's fine. We'll just drink some together. And then they end up trying to get her alone, and so Epigram, Shushin as Epigram, is like, Mom, let's go hunt the monster together, we'll go get her. And so
she's like, I found the monster downstairs in a basement in a crevice.
Yes, and she actually does find the monster. The offspring, it was pretending to be mortar and some rocks, and they have a little moment where they're like, oh, hi buddy, and the little guy is like, I'd like to be part of you. It doesn't speak, but it's trying
and
to
Shushin's like, no, you are yourself. You deserve to be yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, and so then she pretends that it burrowed into a wall. They come in. Very quickly you realize that Epigram actually knew that the Baroness was a monster the whole time, so the Baroness very easily is able to tell that it's Shushin pretending to be Epigram. They doing the battles. And basically, she ends up in the street. Homily stabs her, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it was pretending to be the Baroness. It killed the Baroness," and they kill her because Shushin is being attacked, and she's no match. This is a larger, stronger, older slime monster, which completely makes sense. So she's like, "Oh shit, what am I gonna do? This she's gonna try to eat my eggs," and she takes a gourd of rosemary oil, and she takes it up into her, and the egg sac likes to drink in liquids, and it's very thirsty, so she has the egg sac drink from the rosemary oil, and so she basically turns the egg sac into a poison. And so then she lets the Baroness starts trying to carve into the offspring looking for an egg sac, and obviously there's none there, and Shasheshan's like, yeah, take this one. She eats it, she starts dying. She's still strong though and is putting up a fight, and that's when she ends up stumbling outside and everybody stabs her, and then the monster hunter Malik, the other guy Rourke, died, but Malik's alive, and they just burn her, and so it's done. They kill her and Homily go back to her lair, they live a life, they've got the offspring, except, and this is like, so you think that's going to be the denouement, and like the story is going to kind of wrap up from there, but we get a little like extra story at the end. It almost feels like the story should have ended like a scene before, like there's this dinner where they're sitting there with the offspring is like half in Shasheshan and they're feeding it. It's this little dinner, and it feels like the story should have ended there, and then there should have been a little epilogue story that this was part of, because it really doesn't feel like it feels like it's a little short story attached to the end of the story. But anyway,
for sure.
What the short story is they move into the lair. Her and Homily are having a good time.
They're figuring things out.
But the offspring wants to be part of Shasheshan, and Shasheshan will not let her like rejoin, let the offspring rejoin. And so it's like this, like, as the offspring is getting more and more frustrated, it is taking its frustration out on Homily. And Shasheshan hates this because Shasheshan's like, we need to heal and move past, and you let people hurt you to comfort them and make them better, and we're not doing that, and you're not letting offspring do that to you. And she's like, no, we can't hurt a child. We can, find other ways to deal with it. I've got it. And it becomes like this huge issue for Shasheshan, because as the offspring has kind of gotten more comfortable, it has grown bigger again, and it really is just terrorizing Homily. And Homily,
and so she's really concerned when she starts slowing down at her usual part of the time of the year where she's like, I have to hibernate. She's like, I'm terrified for you, Homily. Please do not allow offspring, epilogue, which she doesn't want to call offspring.
Oh yeah, you're right. They do. She does name her epilogue.
Yeah, because then it becomes the epilogue, and I'm just like, oh, that's a clever little twist on words. I liked that.
I would have loved it if there had been a the end and then it was epilogue story, and then
that would have been great. Oh, whatever, it's fine. So she goes into her hibernation. She has nightmares. She's absolutely terrified Homily will be dead or hurt or taken,
or something happens with the offspring, because she doesn't want the offspring to be like her. Like, she just
wants a happy family, and she wakes up and it is a happy family. The end.
When she does come to, Homily and Epilogue they've bonded over the love of her, and they're doing fine. And actually, Epilogue can write and draws, and Homily thinks she'll become a cartographer. And it's this kind of like, you as the reader are like, because Shasheshan's like, the fuck happened while I was asleep, guys? And basically you learn that the other reason that Epilogue was acting all weird was she also needed to hibernate, but she didn't know what it was, so she thought she was dying. And when she first comes to, and basically, like, the two had to figure out how to get along, and they did, and now they're all good and cozy, and that's it. They get to live a nice, cozy life. That's the book.
Highly recommend. Honestly, I think it's worth the experience of experiencing, because there are very few books out there that are like this as far as the types of characters that you encounter. Has many flaws, but for a debut novel, my God, what a success.
It's one of those things where, because like Dragon Slayer actually said, yes, Homily, tell me the scene where you bonded. Don't just say you bonded. I had the same thing. Yeah. I wish this had actually been a short story that had been from Homily's point of view. Like, Shasheshan goes to sleep, and then we get a short story from Homily's point of view about her dealing, because I actually was super engaged with the idea of her and this blob monster that she has to learn how to love, and that needs to love her, and this inherent conflict. I would have loved that, and the fact that them bonding happens off screen and we're just told about it is just...
It's very irritating.
Yes, but overall, fun time. Again, don't look too hard.
Out of a 10, what would you rate this book? 10 being the best books we've ever read. 0 being
6.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say 6.
A 5.5 or a 6. At its best, a 6.
If you don't want to read like the best book ever, but you want to read a good book, read this.
It has been great, guys. Thanks for joining us this morning, or whenever you watch this when it comes out. Join our Patreon. We do cool stuff here. We love you, our parasocial darlings. Bye.